Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dynasty Depot, your one-stop shop for all your fantasy football tribulations. I'm this week's host, Tom, along with Andrew and Wyatt. Now let's jump right into this Week 9 shipment. Let's start with surprises of the week. Wyatt, what's our offensive and defensive surprises of the week?
All right. Well, I mostly looked at offensive, but I want to first start with Sam Howell, who had a pretty great showing. Um, really made this week look positive, even with all of the movement that's been happening out of Washington. We're likely to see a continuation out of that, at least in the matchups where he poses favorably. He doesn't do well as soon as a defense limits the movement towards tight ends, especially. And when Sam Howell has been contained, he's been really contained. And so it's been a lot of up and down, really inconsistent, very high highs and then very low lows. Other than that, I wanted to look at Demario Douglas. First of all, with Kendrick Bourne out, he's going to be getting more looks, but he's been one of the positives on a pretty thin, talented New England offense. They haven't had a lot of weapons. He has the most burst on that offense by far. So I'm really excited to see what he does next week as well without Kendrick Bourne in, and to see if we can see some similar results with even more production
Man, Sam Howell and the Eagles, man. What is that? I think that's two 30-point games
against.
against the Eagles.
Yep.
Both against
Good D.
dude.
That's not an
No,
easy
no,
defense.
Sam Howell's big on it. I think I have to go into my surprises of the week as surprising because he only scored 7.4 points this week, but it's Chuba Hubbard. The
Mhm.
reasoning because of it is he has 67% snap share this week with 2 receptions on 2 targets. I think he is slowly becoming the number one back in Carolina. Last week he had 77% of the snap share. So it is down this week, but I just don't I see him taking that running back room in full stride. My second one is going to be the Broncos secondary in general, but I'm going to specifically talk about Justin Simmons and how bad Patrick Mahomes played in that game. You got this dude, McMillan had an interception, and Justin Simmons had an interception and a fumble recovery. Mahomes played awful, and there's no one else to look at except for the Broncos secondary. And just like a player I want to highlight is that Justin Simmons. Was it because Taylor Swift wasn't there? I don't know. But the Broncos secondary balled out against Patrick Mahomes.
I
That
mean,
might
do
be
we
the
want to look at
surprise of
this
the
as an
week.
outlier? That really is a surprise of the week. Do we want to look at this as an outlier for the Chiefs offense? I know they're still shifting into a new set of weapons, but even
Uh,
still, it was a pretty miserable showing.
They didn't score a single touchdown, and they scored 9 points on 3 field goals. I know Mahomes was under the weather, and I'm gonna say it again. Taylor Swift was not in the audience. All right, when Taylor Swift isn't there,
Clearly
Travis
that
Kelsey
matters.
basically isn't there.
Big
But
difference
Yeah.
like,
maker.
but I have not been high on this Chiefs offense this whole season. Their defense is full of dogs, bro. And there's no doubt about that. But their offense has just been so stale all season long. And I honestly think most of their wins are off of luck. I watch some of their games and I truly believe that they were not the better team on that field. So outlier of not scoring a touchdown, maybe, but I don't trust this offense at all. Fantasy
Hmm.
perspective, they're gonna produce. I'm gonna talk about Pacheco later, but when it comes to fantasy production, I think that they're still going to be average. But I don't have high hopes for this offense right now. So I think
All
Mahomes had
right.
like 5 points. So
Yeah,
that's
Yeah,
where
it
I
this
was
is
stand on
around there.
that.
sad. Mahomes has done poor in the past in random fluke games. He did lose to the Colts last year, and they were terrible. Top four pick. So I think they could bounce back, but we'll see. Uh,
Yeah. What about you,
my
Kilger?
my surprises of the week. I'm going to start with defense because I think defense wins championships, and it's very important. Kayvon
Defense
Thibodeau.
matters.
It does matter. Thibodeau might be one of the only silver linings that New York has right now. he had a monster game, and he's young. He's living up to the draft pick that they spent on him, and very promising. I think New York fans should be very happy with him. Dude had 9 tackles and 3 sacks and a fumble. That's at 22, you can't ask for more there. It's just the gift that's going to keep on giving. They need to keep investing in him and keep giving him as many opportunities to hammer that quarterback as possible. My offensive surprise of the week is Will Levis. I mean, one game he's already done better than I think he was the 3rd string at the beginning of the season, rookie. One game he's already doing better than both those quarterbacks. That should be his team moving forward. It would be fantastic if he could play the same level against Pittsburgh on the road. If he can, he's the man, and they need to move forward with him.
Yeah, it was electric in comparison. I've never been that high on Malik Willis. It sucks. It sucks to see. I wanted him to find success, but every time watching him, it just felt like he was not the guy the whole time. So
yeah, and it didn't look like that offense and the coaching staff had any faith in him. But I mean, he might have revived some old wide receiver careers in Tennessee there.
I think Levis is potentially the future in Tennessee. I actually have him later in the podcast. I want to talk about him. But the pressures that he's received, he was only 33% accurate when he had pressure, which is definitely going to be something that's going to be exploited, especially this week, tomorrow night when he plays against T.J. Watt on primetime.
For sure.
So
yeah,
I think he's got a chip on his shoulder for being the 2nd round pick. I think he's got some stuff to prove this year.
So. But I think now we should get into our letdowns of the week, and I guess we'll start with you, Wyatt. Who's your letdown player of the week?
Okay, as a Raheem Mostert manager, it hurt to see this week. He was dealing with a moderate injury. He wasn't quite up to par. It was either ankle or calf, something along those lines, but I forget exactly. So we were expecting a bit more share between Salvon Ahmed and the others in the Dolphins' backfield, and the Dolphins distribute a lot to their 2 main wide receivers anyway. But Mostert has had really up games, obviously, and this one was a great matchup for him against New England, and he still wasn't able to produce, even knowing that he was slightly encumbered with an injury. It was just it was a down game for sure, and he's still carrying a questionable tag going into this upcoming week. So it's not a great sight, especially
he's got
while
a
they're
history of injury too. So
yep, history of injury.
Well.
He's getting on in age, and the Dolphins are definitely excited for their rookie A-Chain to get back.
I was about to say, so as a fantasy manager of Mostert, are you taking him or A-Chan moving forward? If you had to choose one of them, who are you taking?
Oh,
they're both injury prone.
It depends on the kind of league that you're in. If you're not doing a dynasty where you're not that concerned with the upcoming years, then Mostert is the solid go-to. He's going to continue to be the RB1 for the Dolphins, at the very least in namesake,
until the wheels fall off.
Until H.N. gets back, and he like numbers wise, he is a producer. He's electric, he's fast, and he will be a fantastic recipe for this Dolphins offense. Mike McDaniel is going to make full use out of him in the future.
How about this week? They are playing in Germany. Do you think he's going to have a bounce back game?
I'm not that confident in this week.
Okay.
What day did they go
because
over?
Of the questionable tag. I'd be assuming that they've got more target share. They're probably not going to lean on him that much this week. There's a lot of weapons in Miami anyway.
Mm-hmm. They won't. They don't want to
overwork
he doesn't
him.
Get it a lot. Exactly.
Is the main thing.
So
what day did they go over?
Weeks. Oh,
Hold on, sorry. When are the Dolphins going over? Are they already arrived? This point? That's like a big indicator on the European games, bro. Is what day they go over there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to find it right now. I'm not seeing it. But that's a big thing. Oh, they touched down yesterday, so they came midweek.
That's what haunted the Bills in London. They didn't show up early enough, and
they showed up on like
the injury
Friday.
bug hit them
They
hard.
showed up, yeah.
Yeah, it was not whoever was in charge of that was not a great idea. But I think they learned their lesson the hard way. But so my letdown of the week, going back to Tennessee, is Traylon Burks. I mean, Levis is throwing the ball around, and he was nowhere to be seen. Rookie you invested very high in, didn't get the ball one time. Disappointing. He's injury prone. It's not looking good. I still think he can make something of his career, but if he doesn't do it by the end of this year or very early on next year, they're definitely going to move on from him. They're for sure in a rebuild phase. To me, he has to prove it if he wants to keep his spot on the team as wide receiver too, and he's yet to do that. And it's disappointing, but I mean, he's got lots of chances in front of him to make up for that.
Well, Levis season, we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll find that connection.
I mean, if you double DeAndre, that could help him.
It should theoretically free him up more. So
it should.
If there was ever a time to prove it, like to prove that he has value, it's right now.
Exactly.
So I'll go into my letdown of the week. This person will sit on the sideline and will pout that he doesn't get the ball, that he doesn't get the help he needs, and he doesn't request a trade. He's sold to this organization all because all he wants is that purse. He only cares about the purse. And that's Davante Adams. Had 2.1 points on 7 targets. One of those was a drop. The others, I want to put the blame on Jimmy G, which honestly should be the most disappointing. But at least he produced more than 2.1 points in fantasy. There's zero question that Davante is a top 5 receiver, arguably a top 3 receiver in this league. And for him to consistently put up sub-0 or sub-5 points in fantasy is absolutely ridiculous. I am a Packer fan, a diehard Packer fan. And I loved watching him on the Packers. And when see him go to Las Vegas, I was like, he wants to play with Derek Carr. Derek Carr leaves, and all he does is complain about not getting the ball, but is reluctant to leave that organization because of how much money he's paying. He's getting paid. That's my letdown of the week. I mean, I don't know what else to say about him. He is definitely disappointing in his behavior on the sidelines, and that's definitely reflecting in his fantasy score. So
I agree it was totally disappointing. I feel like the letdown was definitely the guy that he wanted throwing him the ball, shipped away the second he got there. The Raiders did him dirty, and I don't think they want to let him go due to how amazing he is. He's a game changer. And I mean, that they fired everybody in that front office for a reason. They were terrible. They weren't doing him justice, and hopefully he's got a bounce back game in front of him.
Listen, in the future, I mean, you have O'Connell now, which I think it's his 2nd or 3rd season. He's a young quarterback. He's young enough to listen to Davante Adams. When Davante Adams throws up the 7-11 like Jamar Chase saying that he's open every single play, he's going to get the ball. I think it's going to be a big Davante Adams going forward. But right now, that was a bad performance by him. It just didn't seem like he was out there, didn't have his heart out there. So
I mean, the Raiders really need to turn their entire franchise around. They've got some good pieces, but I think they're paying between $40 and $80 million for head coaches that no longer even work there. That is an insane amount of money
today.
that they're wasting, and they're wasting talent. Davante's not going to be great forever. They need to capitalize now, and they're kind of missing the boat. It's sad. I feel bad for Raiders fans.
Yeah, no, it's a tough scene. I saw they woke up this morning and today was their Christmas, bro.
Oh, I'd be ecstatic.
So, but with this, I think we're gonna change it up to Wyatt for the injury report of this week.
All right. So essentially, we were only really looking at 2 major injuries that will affect your fantasy performance going on from this week. Obviously, we're looking at Kirk Cousins with the Achilles tear. That is, at this point in the season, it's season ending. I don't think there's.
Do we think it's career ending? He's
For
up
Kirk
there.
Cousins, I've seen
Contract year.
seen some of the discussions, yeah. But I think he's a competitor at the end of the day, and he's probably going to come back later on from this injury. How well or not is obviously always up to question. These injuries can take a toll on older athletes, but
He's
he's a
got to go to that
competitor.
Aaron Rodgers doctor. He'll be
Yeah,
back soon.
who's already back up on 2 feet. Other than that, I think we've just got Kendrick Bourne for the Patriots, who's now out for the season as well. And that's definitely as as I said before, it upped Demario Douglas's value. Um, it was already the Patriots offense has not been very explosive, but it is a noteworthy injury.
Who do we
Awesome.
think gains the most from that? Do we think Juju becomes fantasy relevant? Do we think Devontae Parker becomes fantasy relevant? Or is it DeMario?
I'm not even gonna lie. I forgot Juju's on that team.
It's very forgettable.
I think Juju stays irrelevant. I'm being quite frank about this. I think Juju is going to be someone that's in that locker room and helps everyone, but I don't think you're going to see fantasy production out of him. I think a very key part for the New England Patriots is Juju, but I in the terms of fantasy,
he's a Tim Tebow guy, not a producer, a locker room guy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, he's going to be in there doing his TikTok dances in the locker room, cheering everyone on. So
yeah,
that's what Juju.
It's sad. I mean, if you look at his production in Kansas City and even in Pittsburgh before, I mean, he's a baller. They are not using him correctly. I don't know what the 100%. Answer is, but it's upsetting to see.
Yeah, and we should definitely also consider if you had Kirk Cousins, Joshua Dobbs is moving into the Viking system, so we're probably going to see a lot of changes there. It's definitely going to be noteworthy for the Vikings, but I'm not sure what their future is like because they're not totally set on their quarterback now. Obviously,
they 100%. Might look to the draft. Depends on how many games they can squeeze out by the end of the season.
Tank for Caleb, is Vikings in that conversation now?
They got 4 wins, so they'd have to lose outright. I think
have to lose a lot of games.
Hope some other teams could win. They would have to lose,
or they have Justin Jefferson for trade. I think if you can take Jordan Addison, his college teammate, and you bring Caleb Williams in there.
No.
He's on it last year. They dished.
They'll lose 2 games to the Bears, and they'll take that first pick.
That's fair. I mean, you got Carolina too. We'll see what happens there, but
yeah,
pretty sure they beat Carolina. So yeah. So Carolina's definitely not picking Caleb Williams. So
right,
Caleb.
But they could trade back.
They could. Trade
I guess
back.
The Bears have their pack. Yeah, so the Bears might take it either way.
Oh, true. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
but all right. I think we should start to get into our buy sells of the week. So Kilger, you have an interesting buy that I'm actually very interested to hear. So go for yours up first.
Like I said, big defensive guy. The person I think that you should... I am, yes, you know me. I think the person that you should push the hardest for is Nick Bosa. This guy is an absolute baller. We've all seen it year in, year out. He's 26 years old, not having a great season at all. I think now is the perfect time. If you can, while still expensive, you can buy him low. He's had 3 sacks this year. Guy gets doubled a lot. They just beefed up their D-line by adding Chase Young. It makes that line that much harder to guard. I think Nick Bosa squeaks by with a great second half of the season, assuming that he can stay healthy. That is a big assumption, but the guy is an absolute monster. He's so far having an off year. The last 2 years, he's had over 15 sacks and 6 total fumbles. He hasn't had any fumbles this year. He's 3 sacks. I mean, he's having an off year. Perfect time to buy low on him. If you're in a dynasty league, that's the gift that's going to keep on giving. And so that's my 2 cents. I've been trying real hard to buy Nick Bosa. Hasn't worked out great for me, but hopefully it will for you.
So I think I like staying with the defense train. I'm also a big defense guy. And right now I'm gonna be looking to buy Winfield on the Bucks. He just
He's
has
a baller.
consistent production. I try to stay away from DBs when it comes to buying, but I also feel like if you don't have the DBs on your team, that you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. You're trying to find the people who are kind of like field general DBs. And Winfield has been all over. He's led the Bucks in multiple games of leading tackler, and he picks off. He's a ball hawk. He's just out there. He has multiple picks. He has 2 of the 8 games so far are over 20 points for a DB. He is shooting very high, and his floor is a pretty average score for DBs. So I am out there, and I'm looking for Winfield to add on to my team. I'd be willing to give up near a 3rd round pick for him, which is high for a DB, but I think with the point value that he offers, I would definitely be giving up a 3rd round pick for him.
I don't know how fantasy relevant it was, but he did have that goal line fumble. I think it was a game saver even for them.
That was the forced fumble. I think in our league at least that's like 3 or 4 points. So
yeah, so I mean, fantasy not super relevant, but in the game he's impacting it left and right. That's about the best a DB can do right there.
he's playing the whole field right now. So that's definitely someone that I'm trying to pick up. I don't know
He's
his
young,
age
too.
for the dynasty perspective.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I think he was pretty young. I probably wrong on this, but I feel like he's also a UF alum. So I feel like
his dad also good player back in the day.
Yeah. So I'm definitely out there gonna go buy Winfield.
It's in the
off of
genes.
this. But I think we should switch it up to offense and hear what Wyatt has to say. It kind of ties into what he said earlier.
Okay, yeah. Once again, going right back to Demario Douglas, I am very high on the guy. He has been one of the few bright spots in the Patriots offense. He finds space. He's really quick, and they don't have anything explosive on their offense otherwise. And I think he's going to get a lot more target share with this Bourne injury. I'd definitely be looking to buy right now. For any leagues that are deeper, he's probably going to be rostered. If not, I would definitely pick him up.
Awesome.
Let's move on to who we would sell. Oh, you got something?
No, I was about to go on to sell. So I think
okay.
When it comes to sell, I find it so much. I'm a pick hoarder, right? I love my picks, so I love selling. I like selling and rolling the dice on some new people. So I'm excited for this one, but let's see what Kilgore has up first.
So my sell is an offensive player. I got Logan Thomas, tight end, 32 years old. He has played for a ton of different teams. He's having a great year this year. He's tight end number 10 right now at 32 with his injury history. He's probably not going to finish the season. It's been 4 seasons since he played an entire season, and that was the season where he was tight end 3. I just find it very doubtful that he's going to have that season. I think this is the perfect time. You're halfway through the season to sell him on that high note while he's still producing fantastic. If you can pick up a younger tight end, like maybe Kincaid out of Buffalo or even Knox out of Buffalo, that would be a perfect time where you're selling high and maybe buying low. Knox is injured. He probably won't stay in Buffalo, but dude's a baller. He's going to keep producing. That's my 2 cents. Howell's thrown to him, so I mean, a lot of ball share there, and he's put up more than 10 points half the games that he plays. Just got to sell him before that injury.
He's definitely going to be getting a lot of the target share. That Washington offense, I really feel like, in a fantasy standpoint, is about to go off. I think if you can buy into that offense right now, I think it's going to be insane. They lost Chase. They lost who else did they lose on that line?
Sweat.
He went to the Bears. Sweat. Like, they lost their 2 best defensive players. This is only going to lead to Howell throwing that ball, his receivers. Maybe we see Dotson finally show up. Scary Terry's on there. Logan Thomas. I really feel like the Washington offense is a great way to invest right now. And Dynasty, what's the long term?
is
We'll
questionable.
see, but I think if you're a contender this year, you want to hop on this train of the Washington offense. So I
Yeah,
think
I
that's a
could
really
see
good
why you'd
buy.
want to sell Logan Thomas right now, even though
I
Washington is
think
going to continue to put up fantasy numbers, it might be a good time to let
cash
him
out.
go. Yeah, and cash out on it before things get any worse.
All those other
So
guys we named
why?
are all extremely young. Logan Thomas is kind of the
Yeah,
outlier there. You'd be
hmm
selling at the top of his market, I think.
no, that's a fair point when you bring in the age. So why? Who's your sell of the week?
This one is going to be. It may or may not be contentious. I'm going with T.J. Hawkinson of the Vikings, another tight end. We go again. Um, so the real question is Joshua Dobbs is moving into the starting job at the Vikings, most likely. And he likes throwing to tight ends. He likes throwing to his tight end, and he's been doing that a lot in Arizona. Um, but we don't know how quickly he's going to click into their offense. We don't even know if he will get the starting nod for that long. It's just an unclear time. TJ Hawkinson is a great producer. If you're in a dynasty league, it may be worth hanging on to him. But if not, it's a great time to sell him with everything being uncertain.
There's a cat meowing.
Yeah, our cat is going.
So my sell of the week is gonna be Rashawn Gary. The reason for it, like I said before, I'm a Packer fan. I think Gary's a great player. He adds those pressures. He's getting those pressures almost every play, and the dude's a dog. Does it translate to fantasy production? Absolutely not. He just got paid a top 5 contract for a defensive lineman, 107 million 4-year extension. I think this is the perfect time to sell on Rashawn Gary, to be able to sell on contract type and not the points. I think it's great to maybe pivot into a different defensive lineman, maybe one that's up and coming. I know that there's what's his name on the Chiefs? Young Kilgar, you have him on your team. Or had him.
Karloftis.
Yeah, Karloftis. I think it's great if you can get a trade in for there for a high potential younger player. I think that would be great to get off of Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary is, like I said, an amazing player, but his fantasy production for us, it doesn't do anything on our team. You can be a great role player and you can add those pressures and stuff, but it's not producing points for your team. So selling that contract type of he's up there with the Bosas and Myles Garrett when it comes to pay now. Is he overpaid? That's another conversation, but he has that hype now. So try to get off of him. That's what I would do.
Are you just theory wise, are you the type of guy that believes that in a contract year a player is hungrier and he will produce better, and then after he signs that contract, kind of like maybe Joe Burrow at the beginning of this season, the numbers just aren't there anymore because they're more complacent, they're not hungry to put up those numbers now that they're getting paid?
So I think with Joe Burrow, I think Joe Burrow's an
We don't have to
outlier
use that
because he.
specific
No,
example,
I
but
know, but I'm saying with
yeah,
Joe Burrow, that's a very repetitive trend that he has is he doesn't do good in the beginning of season. Like he's
absolutely.
always a slow starter. So I
That
don't
might
think
have been a bad
that's a
example.
good I don't think that's a good example. But I mean, if you look at like the Bosas, right? They got paid, and like
Or
you just
running
said,
back.
Joey has 3 running backs. There's a reason that teams are hesitant on paying running backs late, right? Like
Is it
I don't even want to
because they get
say.
injured, or is it because they get complacent? Or maybe a bit of both?
I think it could be a little bit of both. I mean, we
Okay.
see. I feel like you rarely see a player play at the caliber. Like the only person I can think of right now is Derrick Henry playing for as long and as dominant as he could. You don't see that in today's NFL.
After getting paid as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's an anomaly. I mean, dude's a monster. He's a freak in a good way.
So I mean, you also have Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones still balled out even after his contract year. Injury prone, but he's also getting older when the injuries started coming. So I mean, I don't want to blame necessarily the contract for that. I do
Why?
think
What do you
people.
think?
I think there's going to be individual differences more often than not. If I were to go with a general take, it's probably more likely that in a business sense, people's production tends to drop off after being given that big contract. But a lot of these guys are just at their core, like some of the most competitive people you'll ever meet, to a degree that it might almost be psychotic at times. So some of them aren't going to be influenced by getting paid. Some of them are, and it's probably leaning more towards most um, are going to dip off a bit in production after getting that bag.
If Chase Claypool ever gets paid, he's never doing anything ever again. Can we all agree on that?
Dude, my favorite thing about the Chase
I don't
Claypool
think he's ever
was,
doing anything again.
He's not doing anything to begin with.
Yeah, there's again is a choice.
He's like 3-20 in his entire career across all his teams.
It's pretty good, actually. All right, I think we should go into our matchup dreams of the week. Kilgore, you have a very interesting one, so why don't you start us off with the matchup dreams?
I do. I don't think it's that interesting. I think Jamar Chase, Mr. 7-Eleven, is going to have a fantastic primetime game. I mean, Joe Burrow absolutely popped off. He showed us exactly the type of quarterback that he can be, the kind of quarterback that he is, the kind of quarterback that makes it to the Super Bowl. And I mean, his best weapon's Jamar Chase. They're buddies. They go back to, school together and all that kind of stuff. He's going to have a hell of a game. The fact that they're playing the Bills, this is a potential AFC championship or divisional round opponent. It's at home. This has some serious implications. If you think that Mr. 7-Eleven's not going to be open all the time against that banged up Bills secondary that they just traded players for, I think he's going to ball out. I don't think that's a crazy take. I think it's a matchup dream.
I can agree with that. I mean, they have Russell Douglas, but that secondary is so banged up.
I mean, he's been there for 2 days.
Yeah, he's not going to be in their scheme.
A new addition.
So, and the Packers played a lot of zone, so it's a completely different scheme that he's jumping into. It's not like they're just going to plug in man coverage. So,
exactly.
which they probably are going to do. But
that Bills defense is banged up. They're out. I mean, their top corner. They're out Matt Milano with their top linebacker. They lost their middle linebacker in free agency. I mean, that defense is not the same. Von Miller hasn't done what they're paying him to do yet. I hope that changes, but I think Jamar Chase is going to absolutely tear up that Bills secondary. At least 10 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown.
That's some big numbers. I think I'm going to go into my matchup dream, and that's Max Crosby against the Giants. Max last week said in the game that he is that dog, bro. He is that dog, and he's going to tell everyone on that field that he is that dog. All right? 3 QBs have had... Sorry, hold on. I was looking at the wrong thing. The Giants are not going to figure out anything anytime soon about how to deal with that offensive line, and Max Crosby has been all over the field in every game he's played this season, and he is just going to eat the whole game long. I feel bad.
He's got a motor that doesn't quit.
He doesn't. He's playing something crazy like over 95% of the snaps on defense for the Raiders. As a lineman that's running around like that is literally insane. Like Wyatt said, some of these people are like mentally ill with how competitive they are. That's Max. Max is a dog, and he's going to feast this Sunday.
I don't disagree. To me, he looks like he's came straight out of the Meme Machine with Adam Sandler. I mean, no disrespect, but that guy is terrifying to look at. I can't imagine what's going to be going through any quarterback's head when he's running at you. Like, that's got to be terrifying.
Nah, the dude just literally got a whole torso tattoo. Have you seen that? He did it. Yeah. He got sedated for it. I mean, I don't know who wouldn't get sedated for that. And it's that big trend that a bunch of like athletes are doing and stuff. But it's Michael Jordan, LeBron James.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he was awake the whole time. He looks tough enough to just sit there and take that.
Dude, it's brutal. But he's that dog, and I think we're going to see that dog come out again on Sunday. So,
Wyatt, who's your matchup dream?
I didn't really look at anything this week. I'm pretty tentative for.
Okay.
I'm not entirely certain that there was anything. I was like, this is going to be a perfect game, like a game situation for them this week.
Okay.
All right. Now, I think we got to get into my favorite segment that we have. Oh, so serious. All right. I guess we'll start with Tom. Tom, who is your oh so serious player of the week?
My oh so serious player of the week, definitely Mac Jones. He's gonna have a comeback game. This is his make or break game. He has been benched twice this year. He has had an awful season. I am not going to act like he hasn't, but he is playing against the Commanders, and they are playing at home. This is the perfect scenario for him. The Commanders just sold the farm. There's no one that I can even really name on that D line again. He is going to have the opportunity to prove why he should remain the quarterback of the New England Patriots. If he can't do that tomorrow, or Sunday, sorry, if he can't do that Sunday, they're moving on from him. And that's my opinion, but I'm sure that's what they're thinking as well. It's got to be going through his head. This is his time to shine.
I don't think that's too much of a hot take. I mean, it's now or never for him now. So it's either he does it or this is a bust for Mac Jones. And I think they move on from him after this if he doesn't do anything. So, Wyatt, do you want to give us your oh so serious take?
Yeah, I can go next. I am surprisingly high on the Seattle defensive line. They have started gelling together a bit better, and Boye Mafe has been an absolute presence. He's had a few continuous games, all with at least one sack, and he has just been a tackling machine. Other than maybe Jordan Brooks, and I think he's up there in tackles, and he has just been a fantasy producer. If you are in a league where you're drafting defensive players, Boye Mafe, who is, I believe, now in his second year, he had a disappointing rookie year, but he has been shaping up to be a significant presence on that Seattle line.
I like it.
There we go.
I don't hate it. I just like that.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with it. They have Jaron Reed too on that line. They're all dogs in that line. I think I can see it going up. So
got a good coach too.
My oh so serious take of the week. All right, this player will go down as the best player. I'm calling it now. The best player at his position in his draft class. All right. Only 3 QBs of all time have thrown 4 touchdowns in their first start. Marcus Mariota and Minnesota Hall of Famer Fran Tarkenton. I had to look that name up because I did not believe that. Will Levis is an absolute dog, and I'm willing to write him off as the best QB that came out of this draft class. I only needed to see one game, and he has one of the best head coaches right behind him. And I know I've been seeing it, I've been hearing it. He's awful under pressure, and I said it earlier. He has the coach to help with that. And it's not all going to be on him, and he's going to be suited just fine throwing to D-Hop to get suited into the NFL. He has D-Hop, and he has Derrick Henry. If you're not going to tell me that a QB doesn't have what it takes to succeed with the person who doesn't drop balls, you talk about people like Jordan Love, his receivers are 8 of 42 in contested catches, and all 8 of those are from Dobbs, okay? You have a reliable wide receiver with D-Hop, right? And you have Derrick Henry in the backfield. Mr. Mayo is going to go off, all right? He's going to put mayo in his coffee, and he's going to throw another 4 touchdowns tomorrow night against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm calling it now, and that is my oh-so-serious take of the week.
I like the take. I think he played against Atlanta. He threw 4 touchdowns. They put $100 million into that defense this year, and he balled out against them in his first showing. I like the take. I think if he can back it up in Pittsburgh on the road, if he can have a positive touchdown to interception ratio, I love that take. And he's got a chip on his shoulder for being just absolutely disrespected by every single team and pushed to that second round.
And he's a gunslinger, bro. He's not scared to throw it down that field. He will check down, but he will throw down that field.
Seeing that one throw in that last game was pretty special. I have to say I'm not on board yet. I think that game was I will not call it an outlier. I think he's got something to prove.
First game. It can't be an outlier.
It's his first. Yeah, it's his first
That's
game.
how he plays, bro.
And there's not a lot of tape on him, obviously. So I think teams are going to start bringing different looks that might start surprising him. And there's no way that I feel like we can justify saying that he's the best. He's going to become the best quarterback in this class. We're looking at CJ Stroud, who has been having a pretty monster year. I know we're not all a fan of him, but I think he is that guy in Houston. I think he's that guy in Houston. They know it, and they're preparing to really start building around him. They brought in Tank Dell specifically because he asked. And those two are clicking more and more. They're going to find more ways to get that guy the ball. CJ Stroud, I'm willing. I've said this from the start, and I'm willing to stand on it. If you watched that first playoff game between Georgia and Ohio State, CJ Stroud looked far and away to me to be the best player on that field among a lot of NFL talent. He looked absolutely special then, and I think he's going to continue to be surprising people in the NFL. I know the tests happen. Maybe he's not the brightest guy on the field, but that football IQ is immaculate. He makes reads that do not look like a rookie quarterback.
Listen to me. I know we're talking about Will Levis right now. I will never trust an Ohio State alumni in the NFL. I don't care how he performs this year. I don't care how he performs next year. He is not going to have a gold jacket by the end of his career, but you know who will? Mr. Mayo himself. Will Levis will be draping the golden jacket over his shoulders in 20 years.
Dude, that is a hot take.
I'm so willing to see how this pans out.
Yeah, I love that this is recorded so we can bring this back one day.
So that we can bring this up again.
Yeah. I do have to say, though, the statistic you brought up with the 4 touchdowns in your first game, you could be either a Mariota or a Tarkenton. He's got to be somewhere between those two, and I can't wait to see. Is he a Mariota or is he a Tarkenton?
We'll have to see, but I mean everything that I think I've seen enough. So let's see how he plays out tomorrow night. Watch him ball out again. I saw 4 quarters.
That's it.
And we'll see where he goes from there. So
Hall of Fame.
But I'm jumping full speed ahead on Will Levis.
Put him in now, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They might as well save him a spot.
We've seen enough.
He's my starter. He's my starter on the Dynasty team. I picked him up, and he's starting. I benched Love for him. So
yeah, over Jordan Love. So I feel like that doesn't say a whole lot right now.
Hey, only time will tell, boys. Only time will tell.
Only time will tell.
But all right, well, we'd like to thank everyone for listening to us today. We hope we were a big part of your future commutes, dog walks, or even when you're pretending to do work. If you guys have any questions, hit us up. We're always on. Our email is dynastydepotcast@gmail. We also have Dynasty Depot on Instagram, Twitter, and all that. So go give us a follow there to see our new episodes, and we will catch you guys in the next shipment. Peace.